So I decided to do the Masters because ever since I can remember I've been fascinated by how students learn. I'm a languages teacher and I think that from day to day you see how students learn, you see what works, what doesn't work, and I think it was the next logical step really for me to look into doing a Masters. So the second reason I would say is probably because it allowed me the opportunity to conduct some research, and I've always been interested in school. I've always been involved in delivering CPD. I've always been sort of starting up groups to talk about teaching and learning in schools. So again, it just felt like the sort of next step to sort of put that into practice really. And the final reason is probably because I was a student at Liverpool Hope many years ago as well, and I did have 60 credits that I could port over towards my master. So it just made it a bit of a less of an onerous task and something that was a bit more achievable. I did the leadership and management module for my masters and also pedagogy. So the leadership and management module I really enjoyed because I was a leader in school, so I was a middle leader in school. So it was really interesting to analyse the other leaders in school, especially when you're looking at leadership styles. And I did a case study of my previous school, which I found really insightful and really interesting to sort of dissect how the school was led and the direction it was being taken into. But also looking at research as well and what the research tells us and coupling that with looking at their leadership styles and thinking where they got those decisions from and what was driven those decisions. So I found that really interesting. And I also did the pedagogy module as well, which plays to my strengths really, because I do spend a lot of time in consultancy work, sort of going around the country looking at how students best learn, and I just thought again that's only going to complement what I already know and add a bit of prestige, maybe a bit of kudos to the knowledge that I already have. Well, first of all, I would say that in terms of the sort of confidence that it gave me and just the impetus to be able to think, okay, well, I might be able to, if I wish to, maybe carry on some further study. So that's an option for me, which wouldn't have been an option if I hadn't studied the Masters. I would also say that job opportunities, it would open up certain job opportunities for me as well, which possibly wouldn't have been there in the past, which hopefully would lead to better salary. And as I say, just the confidence that it would give me to go on to conduct some further study, which I'd find really interesting. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm a languages teacher. I've been a languages teacher for 16, 17 years. And perennially there was an issue every single year with students and whether we were going to get them to take their preferred language or not. So it was always a constant battle, and we know that there are certain issues that have cropped up in society and from governments that have put barriers in the way of students taking languages further. And it always feels like we're swimming upstream as language teachers. So I thought that an investigation into or a study into how students, or what factors have provoked students' decisions to either take a language further or to actually drop the language might be something interesting. And it's something that I'd like to share as well with other educators, because I think that when you're in the cut and thrust of being a teacher, you don't often get the opportunity to interview students or to find out the drivers behind their decisions. So I think that the opportunity to do a dissertation around that topic, I think was definitely beneficial to me, but I think if shared would be beneficial to other teachers as well. So many factors impacted my decision on the title of my dissertation, which was how the students' teachers feel, or what factors the student teachers feel has impacted their decision to either take languages further or not take languages further. So what I learned from the entire experience was that if you are passionate about something and really interested in the topic matter, then it does make it an enjoyable experience, a very rewarding experience, and something which, when you're in the cut and thrust of doing the actual dissertation itself, is not as onerous as it possibly could be. I did actually genuinely enjoy conducting the research, and hopefully that came through in the actual dissertation itself. In terms of it being rewarding, I would say that it was highly rewarding, especially because I hadn't written academically for a number of years, and I'd not really written in English, because I'm a languages teacher. I'd not really written in English in an academic sense for a number of years. So I would say that just giving me the self-belief that I could do it, I was able to manage my time effectively as well, which I found was very rewarding as well, because I've got a young family at home, and that's quite a challenge as well. But I would say that in terms of being rewarding, I would say that I learned quite a lot from the experience as well, that how to manage my time, but also giving me the skills to be able to conduct that further research that I discussed earlier. I genuinely wouldn't have been able to do my research without the support and guidance of my supervisor. Not only was it great in terms of support for the actual writing of the dissertation, but even just generating ideas and actually focusing and narrowing down the title of my dissertation, my supervisor was really key to that. We met up initially just for a general conversation just about the direction of travel in terms of my dissertation, and ultimately I actually changed the title of my dissertation. I had in mind what I wanted to focus on, and through the conversations that I had with my supervisor around the MFL landscape and the current situation within the UK, I decided to change the title ever so slightly. So I found that really useful. We also had regular meetings. I found the support in terms of the structure of the assignments that came from my supervisor integral to me being able to actually conduct the research and write it up. So I can't express how important it is to have a real contact with your supervisor, consistent contact, and they're always there to support you as well if you've got any questions, because there are obstacles that you have to overcome along the way, because you're balancing. In my master's, I was doing the dissertation alongside other modules as well, so they required me to do some writing as well. So even just giving some feedback on those areas as well was really beneficial. I think in terms of the planning, it's really key to be able to think about the sort of end goal and work backwards from there. In conversation with my supervisor, in terms of the planning and the actual writing of it, the suggestion he gave, which I'd never really thought of, was to start with the methodology first. So I knew sort of the reasons why I was conducting the research, and also how I was going to conduct that research, and that was really important to have a basis for the rest of my dissertation. Then it was easy to take shape having known what my methodology, or having a strong methodology behind me. And again, that was a suggestion from my supervisor, which I thought was really useful. Yeah, so managing your time is not easy, especially if you've got family at home and you've got other work commitments. So that is a struggle at first. But again, if you can plan your time out, what I found really useful was getting advice from my supervisor, who pointed me in the direction of what to read. So I spent a lot of time reading. But the main benefit from managing the time was that I got the support from my family at home. So we spent a lot of time at the dinner table sort of talking about my dissertation. I probably bored my kids to tears about it. But one thing that was great was they were there to support me, and my wife, for example, she knew that when I was writing, that I could have that time to write. And what really helped was that I used a technique called free writing, where I started writing. Usually when I write, I'm really conscious about syntax and sentence structure and everything being right, but I just wrote freely and then edit it later on, and I think that really benefited me as well. The biggest challenge for me was the time factor, and again managing that alongside other commitments. One thing I did find relatively tricky about the dissertation was ensuring that I was organised in terms of the reading, so making notes of what I was reading and when I was reading it, so ensuring that you're on top of that was really key as well. I suppose one thing that would have been beneficial pre the sessions at Hope would be how to structure a dissertation, because as I said, I've never written a dissertation before. I don't think I'd ever read one before, so I didn't really know the different elements that were involved in writing a dissertation. And it was only through the sessions that were delivered on the topic of Hope, of the dissertation at Hope, that really opened my eyes to things like ethics that I wasn't really aware of, how important ethics were in conducting research, the actual structure of writing, how you present your findings. So those different elements of how to structure an assignment, which is really beneficial discussing at Hope. But also, the final thing I'd like to mention is that my supervisor gave me access to previous students' work as well. So having access to those exemplars, again, just gave me that sort of safety net to be able to think, well, actually, I would be able to do this. It's just knowing the structure of it and just having that knowledge under your belt. So most challenging aspect of conducting the research was because I was conducting a qualitative study and I was involving between 8 and 10 participants. First of all, it's hard to organise between 8 and 10 people with the pressures that they have as well. But ensuring that the questions were focused enough to give the participants opportunity to give some really in-depth information that's going to move my dissertation forward and send me down some interesting lines of inquiry was difficult. So what I did was, and this is a suggestion from my supervisor, was to conduct a pilot study. And I did that with a member of my family, and that really honed the questions, made sure the questions were detailed and specific enough and understandable as well, because a lot of the time in teaching there's lots of acronyms and things that a lot of people don't understand, so to make that clear as well. And when it came to the actual interviews themselves, one thing that did take quite a lot of time was the transcription of the dialogue and the interview itself. And that was difficult, even though AI did help, and there are lots of developments with AI. I did find that was something which took a lot of time. So having the benefits of hindsight, I would maybe find a better way of doing that possibly in the future.